So I just saw Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and I'm going to say something that is going to get people mad at me. I liked this one more than the original. I think everything the first Black Panther was trying to do, this one actually did better. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa. He was iconic. I was really hoping he was going to take over as leader of the Avengers, but unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman passed away. I don't know how the creators of this movie accomplished making such an excellent film with the curveball they were thrown that was Chadwick's death. I felt that, like, the philosophical back and forth between the hero and the villain, better than the original. I always felt T'Challa's philosophy versus Killmonger's philosophy was a little too obvious and heavy-handed, but I felt that Shuri versus Namor was a lot more nuanced and well thought out. But I thought that Shuri versus Namor, philosophy-wise, was a lot more nuanced. All in all, loved the action scenes. I loved this concept of how we deal with grief and mourning. I loved the fact that Letitia Wright got a chance to step out of just the little sibling comic relief role and into a full-blown lead role. I've been a big fan of her ever since the first movie, and I was really glad when it became obvious she was going to become the new Black Panther. Like, we all knew that was the case before we saw the movie. Like, the trailers made it obvious Shuri is the next Black Panther. I also loved what they did with Namor, because Namor, in the comics, is such a bland, boring character, and I know the Namor stans are going to come after me for that, but I've never been a fan of him in the comics. Honestly, if you compare comics like Aquaman to Namor, they're both, like, the same, and I love how both DC and Marvel have now done things to drift them away from, like, the similarities they have in the comics and make them both these unique, awesome characters on their own in their film worlds. Also, gotta love the Hispanic representation. Oh my gosh, making Namor Mayan? That was a great idea. Instead of just making him another half Atlantean king. Also, they're getting more liberal with that word mutant. I'm loving it. When are we getting X-Men? I mean, oh. This also had one of the most brutal moments in a Marvel movie that I've seen, and that is specifically when Okoye gets slammed into that spear. Gosh, that was visceral. I felt that in my face. And she definitely did too. And lastly, the couple things that I wasn't a fan of. The post-credits sequence, I think, was a little too melodramatic. I don't think it was necessary, but a lot of people seem to like it. I personally wasn't a fan of the post-credit sequence. The opening scene was heartbreaking, but it was kind of like the explanation for the talking cat in Rick and Morty. No matter which way they decided to kill off T'Challa, it was not ever going to feel quite right. All in all, though, 9 out of 10.